Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Do Not Disturb Football Podcast. I am your host, Drew Pelter. In the Palomalu jersey, that is Nimmer Munakash. And in the room with the jerseys behind him, that is Darian Pickett.
I had to dress up. It's draft week. I had to dress up.
Yes, a little bit of a different buzz around here. Today we are very close to our draft that is going to happen Saturday at 2 p.m. Is that right, Nim?
Yes.
Saturday, 2 p.m. So I'm going to start off today with a question to you both. I'll start with you, Darian. Why are you winning this league this year?
Man, I mean, just with the prep that we have with this podcast, we have the leverage here. We know what's going on with these players. We're keeping up to date. But no, I think just with coming in with a new strategy, new year, honestly, I think I know how to draft the best team as of watching Ricky, how he drafted last year, and, going in and making sure my trades are adequate, but building a great team in front so I can succeed for the rest of the season. So I think I'll win based on draft strategy and who I potentially draft.
And let me hear it from you, Cash Money Commissioner Muna Cash. Why are you winning this year?
I mean, plain and simple, I'm just better and smarter than you guys in fantasy. No, no, in all seriousness, I really should have won last year. I mean, I just in like life, you learn from your mistakes from the previous year. The beginning for the people watching, the mistakes I did last year before the season even started, me and Drew were on the phone, and I traded not Devontae Smith, Swift for Herbert because I really was high on Herbert. Biggest mistake after whatever after that, I was just like just having what is it, seller's remorse. Just completely, I was just done for the season. Luckily, I had the best fantasy defense, so my opponents wouldn't score that many points. Ended the season 10-4. Then I faced Drew in the playoffs, and who was hurt? Somebody was like game time decision, and he ended up not playing, and Drew beat me by like 3 or 4 points. And then Drew went on to the next round, and I obviously was didn't play, but my team would have beat the team that beat Drew, and then I would have beat Ricky, who won the championship. So you just gotta pay attention, and the playoffs is what really screwed me. And yeah, you gotta learn from your mistakes. Gonna go that Ricky method and not have a good, not really trade with anybody. Maybe 1 or 2 trades, just because it makes fantasy a little bit more fun. But yeah, I feel like that's gonna be my biggest thing. That's why I'm gonna win, and I'm a Steeler fan,
Yeah,
so I mean, it's bonus points.
What
That's
about
got to
you,
be a
Drew?
good feeling for Ricky to
Right.
not go with a single trade last year. And for the people that are like, oh, Drew got Swift, I traded him like 2 weeks later, so didn't even matter.
But you still got
I
good.
would,
You got good value for him,
I
better than
did, I
Herbert.
did.
So
Yeah. I would say the reason I'm going to win, I'm going to stay true to myself, win every trade, hunt the waiver wire, and get lucky in those matchups every single week. That is who I am when I come to playing fantasy football. Just stay true to yourself. For the people that are listening, stay true to yourself. If you have a tactic that's going to work this year, go ahead and go with that tactic. If it doesn't work, maybe rethink things and come back the next year.
and we're actually super competitive. So the people that are listening, first time fantasy goers, I should say, just have fun. I mean, this is just fun. The reason that we're so competitive is because all 10 people from the league are very competitive, and we like talking trash. So that's what kind of makes it fun for us as well. But at the end of the day, it is super fun. It makes the games a lot more exciting and enjoyable. So at the end of the day, we just have to have fun, and this is a great way to kind of bring all 10 of us together. So just have fun.
It's the best. It's the best. It's the draft is my favorite part of the year. I
Oh
can't believe
yeah.
we're so close to it.
Yeah.
It
Oh, I'm
it is.
buzzing. The boys are buzzing.
Less
We're
than
all
24
focused and ready
hours
to go.
of our flight. So I'm excited. I'm really excited about that.
Yes, your guys' flight, and
Oh yeah.
that is. But
I'm kind
I'll
of
be there a little
upset you're
later.
not coming because you're not gonna see Kaysen wear the toilet seat in the airport.
It sucks.
But
I tried everything I could. I'll be
Yeah.
there though. Eventually.
as long as you come, that's all that really matters, to be honest. So
I will be there for the draft. So let's start today with the injury report. There aren't a ton of new injuries. There is Dallas Goedert. He is listed now questionable with an oblique injury. He left practice early. Saints running back Kendre Miller is going to miss 4 games. He was placed on injured reserve today with the hamstring injury. And Titans wide receiver Traylon Burks left practice early today after landing hard on the field. That kind of seems to be his thing. He just kind of lands on the field really hard and then leaves. And breaking news on the Tyreek Hill matter. Mike McDaniel, the coach, said that he's really good at thumb war, and he's the one who did it.
did he
So-
actually say that?
He did say that.
I love
I
McDaniel.
love
bro. He's so
McDaniels.
funny.
Oh, second favorite coach in the league.
I just love it when he sprints down the sideline. But like Matt, dude's low key quick too.
Yeah.
He's one of the best like coaches out there, definitely.
Is he the first coach to vape on the sideline?
I would assume so.
I mean-
I think so.
Yeah, probably. Back in the
And
day, they
before
probably
it-
would smoke like cigs and stuff like that, but probably vape. Yeah, it's the new generation.
One of these coaches got to come out with like a cigar, especially during like a Super Bowl. You're out there on the
Vrabel-
sideline
I'm sure
smoking a
Vrabel
cigar.
threw
That's
some
pretty.
dip in the sidelines or something like that.
Yeah. Vrabel gets the big old patches of dip in his mouth.
Just a full horseshoe.
Yeah. That's another coach that I love. The top story today, I told you guys yesterday this is what we were going to talk about. I didn't know he was going to be announced the starter today, but Bo Nix is now the starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos. I think I speak for all Broncos fans. This is an exciting time to finally have a young quarterback. It's been a long time since we've had a young quarterback. Most of the guys, even outside of like Peyton Manning, you had Simeon, who was a couple of years in when he got his start, and he wasn't great. But appreciate him for his time. And what was that guy's name? Brock
Osweiler.
Osweiler. He was, I think, 2 or 3 years in when he started, and then he ended up going to Houston and robbed them. But what's funny is I was at a U of A game one time, and I'm sitting there with my camera, and I look to my right, and I look up, and it's Mr. Osweiler standing right there next to me.
Oh, that's crazy.
Almost 6'7" of them.
Yeah,
The
and I
dude's
think this is when I had like a Twitter, and I was just tweeting about him, saying like how bad he was and stuff. He said, "How are you?" I was like, "Man, I'm such a big fan." And then he like was like, "Thanks." And then
Jokes, bro. You should have fucking been true to your word.
What if you
I
just pulled
should've-
out your
No,
phone,
because
like, wait, Drew Pelter, and then he just shows you the tweet? The tweet? Oh my god, that would be so fun.
that game was crazy. It was ASU versus U of A. I saw Osweiler there, and before the game, I saw Herm Edwards and Antonio Pierce.
Wow.
That was a crazy game. I saw like the most faces that game. So back to the news. Bo Nix. The question is to you guys, is there anyone on this Broncos offense poised for a breakout season? Darian, I'll go to you first.
No, first and foremost, I mean, it's huge for Bo Nix to be named QB1. I think he's the first rookie since 1983 when Elway got the nod. So that's huge. And I've been high on Nix since he was at Auburn and then even transferring over to Oregon. So I've been following this guy for a couple of years now. But when it comes to anyone in that offense that's truly going to have a breakout season, I don't think breakout is going to be the true term. I think there's going to be some decent years or years out of these folks. You could say Sutton, he's a reliable pass catcher for the Broncos offense. But if you look at it, he hasn't ever eclipsed, or excuse me, I shouldn't say ever, but hasn't eclipsed 1,000 yards since 2019, where he posted, I think it's a little over 1,100 yards. And he's really touchdown dependent and reliant, as seen in last year when he posted 10, which is an anomaly for him, where he posted usually around 2. I think max outside of this 10 was 6 touchdowns. I believe that was that 2019 year. So It's really dependent on if Bo Nix can sling the ball to him. But on average, rookie QBs are really hovering around the 20 touchdown mark overall. So we'll see that spread out again amongst the receiving core and even Javonte Williams. So I would say touchdowns are going to be pretty light for all pass catchers and also running backs for the Broncos offense. So I'd say Sutton would be the biggest name that you should take in later rounds.
Nimmer, what about you? Is there anyone that you think will break out for the Broncos this year?
Yeah, I agree. I probably wouldn't really target any of the Broncos. And congratulations, Bo, because and the Bronco fans. I mean, it looks like you guys are. This is the quarterback that Sean Payton wanted. This is what you guys, your future's looking bright. Maybe not this season, but if you guys get a couple more draft picks within the system, like 5 years, you guys might be good. But I think Sutton probably would be if he fell to me later in the draft. I wouldn't go reach out and go get him, but he's a number one receiver. And if you look at the other receivers that are around him, like Addison, Watson, Reed, Worthy, Adunsday. Now, some of those names are really good, but they have a crowded wide receiving core, like Reed, Watson, Worthy, not Worthy, or I guess Worthy a little bit, but Adunsday also has a crowded wide receiver core. But Sutton's really going to be that number one option for Bo Nix, and usually rookie receivers look for that Mr. Reliable, which I think that Sutton will be. I think the Broncos know that he will be Mr. Reliable. That's why they got rid of Judy. And I mean, he's the wide receiver 38, so he isn't too high, but if he does fall in my lap, I will. That's probably the only Bronco that I'm willing to draft.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not touching this backfield, to be completely honest with you. I think Javonte Williams has shown some flashes, but has never really put it together. When we give him a bunch of volume, he seems to either get hurt or it just doesn't work. And with that being said, I'm not really looking to grab any of the running backs. Jaleel McLaughlin, I know there's a little bit of hype around him this year. To me, he's too small. He could work in certain situations, third down, when you need a screen or something like that. Estime, that's another guy that a lot of people are putting a lot of hype around. I have no idea if that guy's going to work or not. He seems like a really strong back. Could be good in goal line situations, but I really don't know if he's going to be a good running back or not in the league. I would keep an eye on Marvin Mims. I think that was a guy that was getting a little bit of attention last year. Cortland Sutton was good for us last year. He was our best receiver, but I do wonder with a new quarterback, is he going to look as good as he was last year? Or is the ball going to get kind of spread out a little bit more? Another name I would look for is Greg Dulcich, the tight end. I know Sean Payton is very high on him, has spoke very highly about him throughout the preseason. He's had a lot of injury issues, but I do know that they really like him and they want him to be a factor at the tight end position. So those are the two names I would look out for. Probably not worth drafting if we're being honest with you. Just keep an eye on them. Marvin Mims is a punt returner guy, so he could kind of give you points in a couple of different ways. But I'm not really predicting a lot of people drafting a lot of Broncos. The offense is kind of a question mark right now, to be honest with you. I do think that the O-line's gotten better over the past couple of years, and they have some decent weapons, but I really don't know who like the lead horse is in this offense, to be honest. The second story we have today is the Tua Tagovailoa popping off on his coach, Coach Flores. He had a couple of different things to say about him. He said, to put it in simplest terms, imagine waking up every morning and having someone telling you, you suck at what you do. And then he said, and then imagine going to someone else, a different coach, and having them say, dude, you're the perfect fit for this. And how would you react to that? Then he also later went on to call Coach Flores a terrible person, according to CNN. So Pretty crazy. It's not a lot of times where you see players go after coaches that are still coaching in the league. I know that Flores responded to it very professionally and said, "Wish nothing but the best for Tua." We don't really know what happened there. What is your guys' reactions on this? Nimmer, why don't you go first?
I mean, so back in my previous life, I was a teacher and a coach. And so I think that as a coach and a teacher, actually, you kind of have to judge or know the person that you're coaching and teaching. So some people respond really well with hard criticism, you suck, and then sometimes they want to prove you wrong. So then they push harder and pressure. No, I don't suck. I'm gonna show him. I'm gonna show him. So on, so on and so forth. Other people like to be, don't want to say coddled, but like get
Praised.
positive engagement, like, wow, good job, that was a great job, blah blah blah, blah, that sort of thing. And so you really just got to tell who does that. There's not one coaching style, there's not one teaching style for everybody. Each person is different, each person gets motivated differently, and I think that Flores was misjudged Tua or try to motivate him in the wrong way, and that essentially had Tua feel really really bad and suffer honestly mentally for that. I'm glad he has McDaniels. I know him and McDaniels have a great relationship. I think he even came out and said that McDaniels is the first coach that I actually had that actually said that I was a good quarterback, and that gave me positive engagement. And after that, he kind of just did a complete 180. So I feel like Flores, as a coach, he needs to understand that, and he needs to not coach each player the same or try to motivate each player the same.
Darren, what's your reaction?
Honestly, I mean, if you got to say what you have to say, I think you should handle it with a little bit more humility. But I mean, that's just my personal opinion. When it comes to it, at the end of the day, he was your coach. Have a little semblance of respect for him. I mean, he got you to, I think it was the latter half of the season where they went undefeated, where they lost like the first 9 games and then went like 8-0. I mean, he's still a decent coach, has a good defensive mind. Like, whatever the personality clash was, keep it at that. I wouldn't keep it in the media, even though you're both separated at this point. It just is kind of, my question is why? Why are we bringing this back up? But, at the end of the day, he's probably not going to say that shit to Nick Saban, because Nick Saban would have sent his ass out. Like, it's kind of, I don't want to say like a little man syndrome. You have the ability to say something now and be that little bulldog when there's no repercussions, and you have a good situation with McDaniel. Like, keep it on pushing. Go win a playoff game. Let's get closer to the Super Bowl. Let's keep that on in the mind now going into the season, not about some old coach that coached you wrong. So, I mean, that's my thought on the situation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do wonder if, because of this, like if there's something else that happens with Tua, people start calling him soft, because you have that stat line where he, like, under 50 degrees is like however many wins. It's not very much. He has stats of like a third string quarterback. It's not very good. And then you have this story. I'm not saying I'm saying that. I'm just saying that is something I could see happening. That was my thought too. Like with Nick Saban, I would imagine Tua has taken some hard coaching in the past with Nick Saban at Alabama. Maybe it just rubbed him the wrong way with Flores,
Or maybe it's just the way that he said it. I mean, I'm sure Nick Saban, because he's one of my favorite, or he's actually my favorite college coach. But I feel like he would show his players a little bit of respect. Like, yeah, it's hard coaching. There's a difference between hard coaching and having respect for your players, and having zero respect and then still be a hard coach. So I feel like there's a little different, especially like on the field, it's one thing, but then off the field, if you're going up to him in the lunch line and say, "Hey Tua, are you really gonna eat that cheeseburger? Don't you think you should lay off?" Like that's so disrespectful. Like I don't know. I feel like there should be a respect aspect because he is a coach, and you should always respect your elders and your coaches and your higher ups and stuff like that. But at the same time, if you are getting disrespected, if a player is getting disrespected by a coach off the field or in a manner where it's just plain out disrespectful, then I don't know. But I agree. I don't know why this is getting brought up. I don't know. We're 3 weeks from the season. Do you really want to think about this? Do you really want to? All of a sudden now you're gonna get flooded with questions about this. Like 3 weeks into the season, and up 3 weeks until the season. Like, yeah, I don't think this is good timing for Tua.
Yeah, hopefully it's behind us. Hopefully this is the last time it's talked about. I like Tua. I'm rooting for Tua. I'm also rooting for Flores. I like the Flores system. He tends to bring a pretty tenacious defense wherever he goes.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully this is behind us and these guys can kind of make up.
Where is he right now? Where's Flores now?
Vikings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last year, I think they were much improved in the defensive stats, and this year I think they'll be even better.
It'd be crazy if the Vikings and Dolphins played each other this year because of this. That would have been wild.
Yeah.
Not because of this, but like while this was going on and then it just happened that they played each other, that would be crazy.
That would be. I know that Flores would probably send the house every single play. The next story, Chad Ochocinco, child please, Mr. Chad Johnson says, if Jamar Chase isn't paid by week 1 of the regular season, he is not touching the field. How much truth do you guys think there is to this? We haven't seen a player hold out through the regular season since Le'Veon Bell. I do wonder if Mike Brown, this Bengals owner, is the first owner to say, I'm not paying you. And then we see what happens, because he seems to be like that kind of guy to do that. So let me see what you guys think about it. How much truth do you think there is to this statement? He's not going to touch the field. Darian, why don't you start?
I mean, I love Chad Ochocinco. And perhaps he's been talking with Jamar Chase and seeing where his headspace is at, so that he did say that. So there's some nugget of actual gold to it. But I think when it comes to it, they just did a whole promo shoot, him and T. Higgins, for the new all orange jerseys. I don't know, as a player, if I'm holding out, I'm not doing promo in any of the jerseys and still being a holdout. So I think there's some background negotiations going on that we don't know about in the media. And I think before the first week rolls in, there's going to be a deal on the table. He's going to accept it, and he'll be out there playing. My only question is still, where does T go? I think if you see, both of them were doing promos, so maybe they're working a deal for both of them for the long run. That's why they attended that. So I think there's perhaps like a nugget of truth to it. But outside of that, I think there's probably more workings in the background where someone's in the Bengals owner's ear, like, hey, dude, please, this is our offense we're talking about. Let's get Joe Burrow some weapons so we can go back to the Super Bowl. So there's probably just a little bit of a nugget of a truth to answer your question.
Nimmer, what do you think?
Honestly, I love Ocho, and I think that he is, even when he was playing, it sucked as a Steeler fan watching him play, but he's just such an incredible receiver. Love his personality. He especially when he was playing, he got so much hate for no reason. But I think that this is completely true. I think that that Chase kind of is using his leverage, because if you think about it, they got rid of Tyler Boyd. They got rid of Mixon, even though they brought in another running back, and they draft their younger running back is doing really well. But they got rid of Boyd. They're gonna get rid of Higgins. That just leaves Jamar Chase, and so I think that Jamar knows that. and I think that he is having the Bengals pay him because what he owes. The thing that I'm wondering about is that he still has 2 years left in his contract. So, and I think that's why kind of Jamar is real, or Mr. Chase or Chase is kind of looking at his game checks and is like, all right, I'm only gonna make this much, and I'm the top 5 receiver in the league. Like that, I shouldn't be on this rookie contract anymore. And so there's a couple questions. Darian's completely right. I think that there's definitely some other conversations going on with within the building, within Chase's team. And I think Ocho knows it too, and I think Ocho has talked to Chase. I'm sure him and Chase are best buds, and they know. And yeah, so I think it's just weird doing this so close to the season. Like, why wasn't this when training camp first started? Like, why wasn't this brought up a lot? Of why is it getting pushed now? Is it getting pushed now because it's the end of or it's almost the end of the off season, or like what?
Yeah, I don't really know. It seems like a similar situation to what happened in Dallas. Jerry said, I don't have any urgency. Mike Brown, the owner for the Bengals, said, I don't have any urgency to sign our best receiver. And CeeDee Lamb for the Cowboys stopped showing up, and now Jamar Chase stopped showing up for the Bengals. It is interesting to see how that works. I don't know how you don't pay Jamar Chase. To me, he's a guaranteed top 5 receiver in the league. Probably one of the best 3 route runners in the league, I would say. Very strong, very fast, elusive. The total package from a receiving standpoint. It is crazy to me that this contract dispute's going on. I guess Mike Brown seeing it as what you just said, Nim. You still have 2 years on your contract. Why do I pay you now? So it'll be interesting to see. I don't think he's going to sit out regular season games. I don't think that's going to happen.
And what's crazy is that like you never really see the connection between the quarterback and the receiver from college, and then they both get drafted to the same team. Like they both excelled in college, and then they both get drafted to the same team. Like that connection alone would be worth just keeping him, even if he did suck. Even if he wasn't the top 5 player of the league, just having that connection is huge. And he's good, and he's the top 5 receiver. Like that's ginormous. But yeah, I mean the Bengals are kind of pinning themselves in the corner, so they're gonna have to pay him. I don't know what else they're thinking about, but
the next thing we have for you is we're gonna do a little bit of predictions for the season. We have predictions for the North in both conferences, so the AFC North and the NFC North. We told you in the promo for this show that we were going to give you some gambling tips for all of you gamblers out there that are watching. Here is your time. Now you can listen to us. We are going to talk about the AFC North first. So we have the wins there on the screen. I'm going to go one by one and kind of just ask you guys where we think these teams are going to finish over or under their projected wins. So, Nimmer, I'll start with you. Bengals 10.5 wins, over or under?
I am picking the over. Looking at their schedule, I think that they're going to get 12 wins. I think that they're going to get 12 wins. So I'm going with the over on this one.
Darren, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just with the controversy and everything, I just don't think they did too much in the offseason as well to really actually be at this line of 10.5. So I think they're going to be under. I think they'll be around that 9-win to 10-win season and still be, I'd say, around second in the division.
Yeah, I said over. I don't really know why, to be honest with you.
Just have a feeling.
Yeah, I just excuse me. I think about this division, and it really is up in the air in my eyes. Like the team that I think might screw a lot of people in terms of like this line is the Browns because they were such a good team last year. And some would say maybe they were taking a step up from Joe Flacco to Deshaun Watson. I don't know if I agree with that, but there's an argument. They're probably going to be top 5 defense again this year. But let's go to the next team, the Ravens. Nimmer, what do you think? Over 10.5 wins or under?
So I think I have them exactly at 10. I think that they lost too much on the defensive side to really repeat the same that they did last year. So I have them at 10 wins.
What about you, Darian?
Yeah, I think just with bolstering the offense, it's just going to be a vicious attack. I mean, if you can score points, you're going to end up winning games if you just outscore the other team. So I think they do hit the over on this one. I don't think it's by much. I think they would be around that 11 to 12 win area. I don't think it would be any more than that.
In my opinion, I think the Ravens are going to be the most disappointing team in the NFL this year. I think that bringing in Derrick Henry could be something that hurts them just because now everyone's going to load the box. Your offense is probably going to be I formation centric, so a little bit less unpredictable. So I'm going to say they go under 10.5 wins. They also lost their defensive coordinator. I think that's a big loss for them. I think they're probably going to look a lot more like the Ravens of 2 years ago when they were getting shootouts all the time with like the Dolphins and other teams. But we'll see. I could be wrong. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Nimmer, I'll start with you.
Undefeated. 17 wins. No. Could you imagine? Oh my God, that'd be crazy. But no, I think that realistically, looking at their schedule, I think that they are going against 3 rookies. Okay. Daniel Jones, the Chargers. So that's 3, 4, 5 wins right there. They're probably going to go 1-1 with the Bengals and the Ravens. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we're going to sweep the Browns. 7, 8, 9. And then one of these close games, when it like we're playing the Colts. We might steal one from Kansas City, even though it's the end of the season. I feel like
week 2.
Huh? What'd you
Denver week 2.
Yeah, that's the easy win. That's gonna be our first win. I'm telling you, because I think that our defense has definitely improved. I think out of all 4 of these teams, and honestly, and I'm not saying this. This is my unbiased opinion. I think that we were the team that improved the most in the offseason. Not including the quarterbacks out really. Let's make that as a wash. But we have Patrick Queen. And we got our 2 draft picks that we needed on the offensive line. We fulfilled those needs. I think that we did a great job in the offseason, and we needed a quarterback, especially last year. So even though I said it's a wash, it's not really a good or bad thing just yet. We will see if it's a good or bad thing. But the fact that we got 2 makes it kind of a good thing. But anyway, so I think that we're going to have 10 wins. 10 wins.
Darren, what do you think? Over, under 8.5?
No, I agree with Nim. I think they hit the over. And I think it's just the Tomlin effect where he's had. Yeah, I mean, being no losing seasons, he's had winning seasons his entire time, his entire stint there with the Steelers. Albeit there were a couple where there were ties, so it was a 500. So it's still a winning season. Nonetheless, I think they do get 9 wins this season. I don't think it'd be 10, but I do think they'd be hitting that over just at 9.
I can take 9. I can, if we go 1-1 with each person in our division, I could see that.
That's kind of my thinking. I think with Mike Tomlin's record, notoriously finishing over 500, even if it might just be by 1 or 2 games, he does it. I think I see them winning 9 games this year as well. And the last team, the Browns. Nimmer, what do you think?
So, I really don't get the hype from the Browns. I understand that they have the top 5 defense. If not, they probably have the second best defense in the division. If not the first. They might be better than the Steelers. I say might, but I can't say it. My mouth won't say that, but I can't get my mouth to say that. But so their defense is really, really good, but their offense is just, I can't get behind Deshaun Watson. I mean, with Russell and Fields, he's the worst quarterback in our division, to be honest. The fact that Joe Flacco came back from out of his house, off the couch, and started playing, and brought them to the playoffs, and Deshaun Watson couldn't do that. I can't see him doing that well. I have them at 7 wins. Yeah, I don't see the hype on the Browns, and they don't have Chubb in the beginning of the season, so their running game is kind of wishy-washy. Amari Cooper is a little banged up, is pretty old. They got Jerry Jeudy, but I mean, he didn't even do well on the Broncos, so what makes us say that he's going to do good on the Browns? So I really am very, very low on the Browns. I don't see the hype. I mean, excuse me. Vegas has the Browns over the Steelers in the division race, and I just don't see that.
Darren, what do you think over under for the Browns?
Yeah, I got to go with the under as well for the Browns. I'm just not sold on the offense like Nimmer. I think there's some inconsistencies. I mean, right now, both tackles and their backup to tackles are out. They're injured. So, I mean, going up against teams, they're going to bring the pressure, knowing that there's probably going to be some rookies in place or those like third string guys who really never see the light of day and have had this competition. So I think there's just some wishy-washy stuff going on the offense. I mean, I do love the defense. I do love how they re-signed JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He's one of my favorite young
Wait,
linebackers.
say that name again.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
That was really good. Huh?
When I said it well, I mean,
Yeah, you said that really well. That's a really cool name. That's really dope. I like that.
And he's got the most drip out of anybody in the league. I will tell you that for sure. But no, I don't. You know, the defense can keep him close into games. I mean, with Myles Garrett, I mean Greg Newsome on the edge with I forget who they have at safety. I think it's Grant Delpit as well. They have a nice. Say it again.
Denzel Ward too.
Yeah, Denzel Ward too. I mean, it's a nice defense, but you know it can only get you so far if your offense can't score points.
I feel like defense wins one game and for them, but that's it. But what do you think, Drew? Sorry.
I'm going to go with the under as well. I'm not very confident in this pick, like I've already said. Isn't Stefanski? He's a 2-time coach of the year, isn't he?
I believe so, yeah.
So that makes me a little worried. I do think he's a good coach. Jameis is saying that when the lights turn on, Deshaun is the guy or whatever he said, and maybe he's turned a page. I like Jerry Jeudy. I don't really know if he's what he was supposed to be. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the under. I really have no idea how this division is going to play out if you really ask me. The fact that I have Bengals winning it, and I have no like sort of evidence to give you why I think that, I wouldn't listen to me. I would listen to the other 2 guys on this show for
I just can't wait
advice.
for the in-season Hard Knocks where it's going to be the whole entire division. Oh, that's going to be so much fun to watch.
Probably one of the most entertaining divisions in football.
Definitely.
Love watching
year in and year out. This division is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We always have
when you watch their games, it's like a different football game. It's like a much more physical football game.
Exactly. We always have 2 or 3 people in the playoffs every single year. Granted, the Steelers usually are the ones that like squeak by, but especially recently. But still, and we're the hardest division in football. I love it.
Do you guys think there's a chance that 3 teams get into the playoffs like last year in this division?
Doubtful for this year. I do think it's probably going to be two of them. I would say Ravens, Bengals would be the two that get in.
Hmm. I think you're gonna need at least 10 wins in order to go to the playoffs. I think there's too many dark horses in the AFC. NFC maybe, but AFC, I think there's too many dark horses in the AFC for anybody to squeak by, unless God forbid, but any injuries to these star players. But I can't see that happening.
Yeah, me neither. I think with some of these other teams, you have the Jets, you have Dolphins, Bills. Who's going to win that division? You have the Chargers in the AFC West. You have some other teams that could take that last spot away from whoever else is vying for it in this
I
division.
mean, even the Texans divisions, I think they're the second best division in the AFC.
Texans,
That
yeah,
division is going to be
Colts could be
nasty.
pretty good this year.
Yeah.
We will now do the NFC North. This is another very fun division. You have the Lions, who really put a stamp on the league last year, went all the way to the NFC Championship. The Bears, who have a new up-and-coming young team with a quarterback of the future. The Packers, who have Jordan Love, who's shown that he can be a good starting quarterback in this league with a talented wide receiver core that we talked about yesterday. And the Minnesota Vikings, who, to be honest, I'm not really seeing a lot of wins out of, but they have some cool guys on their team. Jefferson and Harrison, the safety. I like Harrison. That's
the
pretty
new
much
signing
it.
They just got. Didn't they just sign somebody we just talked about yesterday?
Aaron Jones.
Stephon Gilmore.
Tomorrow.
Stephon Gilmore. Yeah. Yeah. So let's do the over and unders for the NFC North. Nimmer, why don't you start? Lions over under 10.5 wins.
I have the Lions 12 wins. They signed and drafted. The biggest problem with the Lions last year was their defense. I feel like especially their secondary, and all the signings and all their draft picks went straight to that. And with Dan Campbell as your coach, how can you not get more than 11 wins in the season? And looking at their schedule, I mean, this is probably going to be the hardest division in the NFC, but I think that they go 1-1 with the Packers and the Bears, and then they sweep the Vikings. So that is 2, 3, 4 wins right there, and then the rest of their schedule isn't too difficult. But so I have them at 12 wins, so I'm gonna take the over.
Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah. So their strength of schedule is pretty much middle of the road. So I would say they're going to have the over on this one. I do agree with Nim. They'll be around that 12. I believe high upside, that ceiling is going to be that 13 wins is, I think, where I would put them at going forward with this season. But I think with that offense, it's youthful, it's talented. You're surrounding Jared Goff. Even the fan base loves them. They're in a win now situation. So I think they put it together this year. 13 wins, probably secure that second seed in the playoffs, just based on win total.
Yeah, the
Who's
only
first?
reason to me they
First?
don't get.
San Fran,
What?
probably.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Drew. I just wanted to know.
No, you're good. The only reason to me the Lions don't get to 11 wins this year is if Dan Campbell's calling for fourth down plays every single fourth down that comes and he's trying to go for it. That's the only way I see them not making it to 11 wins. So I'm taking the over for the Lions. I think I said yesterday, I think whoever makes it out of this division is going to be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. I've got the Lions for the NFC conference representing the NFC for the Super Bowl. Let's move on to the Bears. What do you think, Nim? Over or under 8.5 wins?
Just when I think that Caleb Williams can't get any luckier, looking at it, their schedule is so easy. Besides the Packers and the Lions, and maybe a couple more teams, but their schedule is pretty easy considering, and with all the additions that they've done, I have the Bears at 10 wins.
What's their schedule look like? Do you know?
No, but I can pull it up real quick. Let's see. Week 1 is against the Titans. Week 2 is against the Texans. Week 3 is the Colts. Week 4 is the Rams. Week 5 is the Panthers. Where? No. Whoops. Can't see. Oops. All right, I just had it. Where is it? Here we go. Panthers, Jags, then the bye week. Commanders, Niners, Patriots, Packers, Vikings, Lions, Cardinals, Vikings, Lions, Seahawks, and Green Bay.
It's a
So-
pretty mixed bag. There's some good teams in there.
There's some good teams, but I feel like the Panthers, the Titans, all of the bottom tier teams besides the Giants, they're playing. So the Patriots, Titans, and the Panthers. That's three right there, and then they go 1-1 against the Lions and the Packers. That's 5. I don't know.
Darren, what do you think? Over under?
Yeah, so they do have the third easiest strength of schedule for this season. But I'm not sold after hearing that schedule. I think they are going to hit the under. They're going to be at 6 or 7 wins, despite having that easy of a schedule. I mean, you have a rookie QB. You're working out the kinks with him. You don't have such high expectations, and I don't think they hit that 10-win mark, let alone even hitting 8 wins. So I do have them being around 6 or 7 wins this season.
I'll say they hit the over. I say they win 9 games. I think that's probably fair. The Packers, I'm kind of surprised with this line, to be honest with you. 9.5 wins. Nimmer, what do you think? Over under?
I think I'm actually feel like the opposite. I feel like the Packers this line is like perfect. I think I have them at 9 wins. I think they go 1-1. I'm not totally sold on the Packers. I think that they will make the playoffs, but I think they're going to be the 3rd team in the playoffs. I think that they I'm trying to pull up this schedule right now. I'm sorry, but I think that they will be 3rd in the playoffs. I think they'll be able to do well, but if everybody remembers, in the beginning of the season last year, they really didn't do that well. As the end of the season that they started picking up a little bit more speed, but they also didn't. The Bears weren't anything. The Vikings were nipping at their heels. So I actually have them at 9 wins. So for this, I'm gonna take the under.
Darren, what do you think? Over under?
Yeah, I got to say the opposite. They're same kind of situation as the Lions with strength of schedule being in the middle of the pack, maybe the 20th easiest schedule or 12th hardest, whichever way you want to look at it. At the end of the day, I think just with what Jordan Love can carry on with this offense, the defense is pretty solid. I do think they hit the over on this one, but being at that 10-win mark, I think, the ceiling would be 11, but respectively, I think they'd be at that 10-win mark on the season.
Yeah, I'm going to hit the over on this one too. I think they showed a lot of promise last year. They have a solid team all around. Jair Alexander is one of the best corners in the league. You have a really fun receiving group. Good linebacker in I can't remember his name, the long-haired dreads guy.
You have Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith. You have or Zadarius left. Excuse me. It was Preston Smith. It's then Quay Walker.
He's good too.
He is good. I mean, you have Rashawn Gary as an edge /
Is it
outside.
Campbell? Isn't his name Campbell, the middle linebacker?
I think it might be.
I don't know. Point is, they got a good team overall. So yeah, I'll hit the over on that. The Vikings 7.5 wins. Number, what do you think?
This is the line that kind of confused me. I think this is really high. I have maybe 4 wins. I don't think they might, just because it's a division game. They might get one win in their division. Not saying other teams, but I say like that could be maybe one win and then squeak by a couple. And this has nothing to do with JJ getting hurt or anything like that. I think that losing a lot of variables, especially your quarterback, which is the arguably the hardest or the most important position on the team. I think that had a huge factor. Jordan Addison is, I think he's hurt. Hawkinson's hurt. I think that they're very banged up, and I'm shocked that it's 7.5.
Darren, what do you think?
So
Yeah, I agree. I think it's pretty high for them, just given their current situation. I do have them on the under. I do think that they could squeak out 5 wins, a little more than 4. I don't think they're going to be the worst team in the NFL. I think they're probably going to be second, maybe third worst, and just being in a rebuild and then building around JJ once he's healthy and back next year. So I think they just take the L on this one and then come back a little bit stronger next year.
Yeah, I think the under is the lock here. 7.5 is a lot of wins for a team that looks like this with Sam Darnold at cornerback. Offensive line that's struggled a lot. Not too many stars, really. An aged running back in Aaron Jones. I honestly can't believe it's at 7.5 wins. That's pretty crazy to me. I don't think I asked you guys the placing for the division, so let's go back to the AFC North. Where do you guys go with the placing? First, second, third, and last? Nimmer, why don't you go?
I have so the Bengals did lose Mixon and Boyd, but they gained Stone, which is a great safety, and then hopefully, if they sign Jamar Chase, and they have a fully healthy Joey Burrow, I think it goes Bengals and then Ravens. I think the loss of the DC is going to be, I think you mentioned it earlier, is going to be a critical role. They also lost Patrick Queen and Stone to the Bengals. Which, side note, this is kind of crazy that 2 of their starting or stars on defense, one of the stars is going to division rivals. Like, how insane is that? Just to add more fuel to the fire to this division. It's just beautiful. But I do have them doing really well. I do have them going second. They will make the playoffs with that 10 games. But, yeah. So I go Bengals, Ravens, and then Steelers. The fact that we had, in my opinion, the best offseason, that will boost us up. I don't know why Vegas has us last in the division, but yeah. And then the Browns, and actually the Browns have the hardest schedule throughout the whole entire league. So I think the Browns are going to be a huge step back. But yeah, so it goes Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Browns.
Darren, what's your order?
Yeah, I can definitely agree with the bottom of the division being Steelers, Browns, but the top is where I flip flop. I think it'll be the Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns, in that order. When it comes to the difference between the Ravens and the Bengals, it'll be split by a game, come down to the wire like it used to be back in like 2016, 2017, with AB and Le'Veon Bell out there, and like there was crazy mathematics on who gets into the playoffs. And like, I think it was Le'Veon Bell who scored the game winning touchdown against the Ravens to then send the Steelers into the playoffs. It's going to come down to that kind of situation with this division.
Yeah, so I think I have the same order as Nimmer. I have Bengals 1, Ravens 2, Steelers 3, Browns 4. Geno Stone, I think that's his name for the Bengals. That is a pretty big pickup for them. He was kind of like the unsung hero for the Ravens defense last year would play outside linebacker, safety, nickel, was kind of all over the place. So that's a really big pickup for them. I kind of already explained the Ravens situation. I think they're going to be a pretty disappointing team this year. Steelers, big question mark after watching them this past weekend.
Yeah.
And the Browns, someone's got to be last, so I'm just going to put the Browns last.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing the preseason. I was actually, before the preseason, before everything, I really thought it was going to be Bengals, Steelers, Ravens, Browns. But after the preseason, I didn't realize how big of a question mark the quarterback and our offensive line, more importantly, is. So I had to bump them down. But honestly, if we get just a winning record, I'm okay with it.
Well, with Tomlin, he will get you there. One
yeah.
game above 500,
Yeah.
at least.
I'm one of the only few Steeler fans that are pretty content with having a winning record and not like making playoffs or winning or playing a playoff record, but I'll take it.
Gotta love Tomlin. I mean, there's a lot of coaches out there that come in and shit the bed every year. So to have one that can bring you to a winning record, at least, that is something that is pretty cool for the city of Pittsburgh. The NFC North. Let's go through the order here. Darren, I'll start with you this time. Who do you think places first, second, third, and last?
Yeah, with this one, I like the Lions taking the division with around 12, 13 wins. And then following right behind them is going to be the Packers at 10 wins. And then really kind of seeing both the Bears and Vikings. I went on the under for both of them. I see it falling in that succession, Bears and then Vikings. Vikings just, like I mentioned, kind of tanking this year, rebuilding and then building around JJ for next year to be stronger. So, and basically Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings in that order.
Nimmer, what do you think?
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the order, but I think that it's going to be Lions, Bears, Packers, Vikings. I think that the Bears have an easier schedule. I think that the Bears, in my opinion, have a better team, offensively and defensively. And I think that with Caleb Williams since the Bears do have an easier schedule, I do think that they are going to be a higher seed. They're going to be above the Packers in the division.
So I think I have the same order as Darian has. I have Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings. Lions are a really good team, should be one of the cornerstone teams of the league this year. Like Nimmer alluded to earlier, what hurt them the most last year was their number 2 corner, Cam Sutton. He was kind of getting toasted all year. You bring in Terrion Arnold from Alabama. I think that's going to make a big difference. Pretty much everybody outside of the secondary was pretty solid last year. The linebackers, the D-line. They have probably the best offensive line in the entire league. 2 really good running backs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Laporta. Pretty solid team in Detroit. Packers, I think, are still a really good team. I wonder sometimes if Jordan Love's going to struggle this year with the sophomore slump. I could see that happening, but I still think they finish second place. Bears, I've got them third. I think they're going to be really exciting to watch. Probably, in my opinion, maybe the most entertaining team to watch this year. The Chicago Bears and the Vikings, I think, are not going to be very good at all, unfortunately. But that is our predictions for the AFC North and the NFC North. And that is all for us for the first half of our show. We will see you guys in 5 minutes. Welcome back to the Do Not Disturb Football Podcast, where football is forever. We are back. During the break, it looked like Darian was packing a London Fletcher jersey into his bag. Am I right there?
I wish it was London Fletcher, but it's a customized jersey that I had made a couple years back.
Ooh.
Funny thing is, London Fletcher and I do share the same birthday.
Nice.
Interesting pull there.
That is really cool.
Let's talk about the draft. What are you guys bringing? Are you guys bringing draft sheets? Which draft sheets did you choose? What are you guys expecting the weekend to look like? Let's go through the challenges that we're doing, some of the fun things that we're doing. Nimmer, why don't you start?
I think you meant like challenges in general. I'm like, the challenge is not to get yeah. Anyway, not go crazy, I should say. But I haven't been training for it. But I am the way that I did a cheat sheet last year. I didn't even go through my cheat sheet. I brought as a commissioner. I brought each person a top 300 sheet from ESPN. So it ranks like what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Based off that. But for me, my personal cheat sheet, I have a list of names. I have like an Excel sheet that has a quarterbacks in one column, running backs in another column, wide receivers in another column, defense, tight ends, and kickers. And so last year I didn't really go like stick to it, but this year I'm definitely going to stick to it. And within those lists, within those columns are the receivers and running backs I'm targeting. And it's not just a handful, but I have like, let's say I have like Devontae Smith and then Cooper Kupp. So then if somebody picks Devontae Smith, at least I'm not scrambling to see, all right, well, who's the next wide receiver, who's the next running back, so on and so forth. I have, all right, the next wide receiver I want to get is Cooper Kupp. So that's the way I do my cheat sheet. It's different in person than it is online because there's no filters or anything like that, and you might overlook somebody or something, so I like to be a little bit more organized. So that's a cheat sheet I'm doing.
What about the challenges? I know you just sent me like the rules of them beforehand. Could you like maybe somehow explain them without getting too complicated?
Yeah. So the way that we're doing our draft order this year is that we have 10 members of our league. So with each team member is going to come up with an event that we have to do, and the winner of that event gets 10 points, the second place gets 9 points, all the way down to the last place gets 1. And after the 10 events, we're going to tally up all the total number of points, and the winner gets first dibs to see what draft order they choose, and so on and so forth. So that's in essence what we're doing. The challenge I'm doing is a drinking game called Rage Cage. It's going to be like a little tournament. So we're going to have 10 people do Rage Cage, and then the person that gets the last cup is out, and then we're going to do another game and then go on and on until the end. It's just 1v1 Rage Cage. And yeah.
God damn,
that was a lot. I know. Hopefully I tried not complicating it, but hopefully that made sense. If anybody has any questions, just throw them in the comments and I'll definitely answer them.
Darren, what are you doing to prepare for this weekend?
Doing what I usually do, flying by the seat of my pants.
I love that expression. That's a great
yeah. So I don't have any cheat sheets. I never usually used one. This year, I've dabbled in using an app called Draft Wizard. I've been pretty heavily on that for mocks. It has a portion of creating your own cheat sheet, so I'll probably spend some time when I'm not drinking, compiling my list of who to target, who to avoid on that app, so I can have it handy when we go live. But I also loved using the ESPN 300 sheet that Nim gave us last year. I brought highlighters. I bought pens last year. So I was striking out who people were drafting live when we had the stickers, so that I could see who's left on the board. And that's how I ended up with DK in like round 6. I think he just went under the radar for everyone, and I was able to get him in a late round value, which was pretty dope. So I'll probably find the same one that Nim had and print it out, bring it. If not, utilize the app Draft Wizard and create my own cheat sheet there.
I'm bringing a 300, so if you don't want to bring it, you don't have to. But thanks
Yeah.
for reminding me. I need to bring pens. Last year we didn't. We brought the paper, but not the pens. So
Yeah.
luckily there's
Yeah,
pens out there.
print me one of those ESPN 300 ones. I liked that.
Yeah. I'm printing
sorry.
out to everybody, giving it out to all 10 of us.
Other than that, I mean, I haven't prepared for the festivities, so it'll be a fun one for sure. I forget what game I picked in an event, but whatever it is, I'm gonna come out on top. No one beats me at Rage Cage. I've lost maybe twice in the entire friendship that we've had. I'm just that good, so I'll come out on top with the 10 points there.
Nah, I'm still undefeated. I've never drinking the middle cup ever in my life out of my whole entire drinking career. So, but I think that's what's fun is because it's so much easier to like not drink that last cup because you just put the cup on the opposite side. But then when we dwindle it down, it's gonna be fun. Your comment,
Yeah, I never plan anything.
your wife's comment is so funny.
Got to
I
be in the
am-
moment. Yeah, why plan when you can live in the moment?
Yeah, and this is why I am the commissioner because I have to plan everything.
Yeah, last year I didn't bring a sheet at all, and I don't know why I didn't bring a sheet, but I remember the draft started and I saw everyone with their sheets and their pens out, and I looked down at my blank table and I was like, "Oh wow, I'm kind of screwed here," and I'm just picking players at whim.
Yeah, you ended up with Derek Smythe or something like that.
Yeah, Durham Smythe.
Yeah.
That was funny. But I'm bringing PlayStation. For those of the people watching that don't know, I'm pretty good at all football games. I'm going to be bringing
He's
NCAA.
really good. He's just being humble. He's actually really, really good. So just
Last
put
year
it in the
ranked
chat.
221 in Madden in the world. This year, top 6,000 in college football 25. So haven't been playing as much, but still pretty decent. I was gonna let people make a rule, but I think I've changed my mind because I'm gonna be coming late, and there's gonna be a punishment with that. I think we'll just do 3 random teams in a sudden death, and we'll just play like old Western days, and I'll just beat the dog shit out of everybody. But
Not where I thought you were gonna go. That is so funny.
but I'm very excited. We're very close to this draft. It is like a second Christmas. We will kind of focus this block, this half of our show on the draft and kind of some of the things you should be looking out for. We're going to start off with the biggest sleepers of this draft. That is probably something that like keeps me up at night. I'm like, who's the sleeper of this year? And it makes it really, it takes over all of my thinking coming into a draft. And I always want to pick the biggest sleeper. The biggest sleeper last year, I think, was Laporta. He didn't even get drafted. And then I picked him up off of waivers right before the season started. So let's start with Nimmer. Why don't you give us your biggest sleepers?
So one of my biggest sleeper is Scary Terry. I think the preseason definitely rose his fantasy value. I think he's going to be Jaden's favorite target. I think that this offense is going to be a little bit ramped up. I actually have them going second in that division. I think they're going to be the biggest surprise of that division. I know I can see the joy on Darian's face.
Just
But
an interesting take. Yeah. I'll take it.
I feel like they are I mean it's always between them or the Cowboys, but I don't think the Cowboys are really going to do that well, but nevertheless that'll be for next week. But yeah, so I think that he's a wide receiver 1. He's going pretty late. and he has Dan Quinn as a new coach. Now I know he's a defensive minded, but I think that he's definitely going to change that team, and then with the team being changed, that also increases the player's value. So
And they brought in Cliff Kingsbury as the
Yeah.
OC.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, I forgot his name, but yeah, exactly. So I think that's going to be huge. I think having actual quarterback that hopefully can not get sacked every time. I think since Jalen is a mobile quarterback, that's actually going to open up the playbook a little bit more, as well as I don't think that the defenders are going to rush as hard, because if we rush as hard, then he'll find those holes and just run for 50 yards. So, yeah. So I think McLaurin is my sleeper, and then my biggest tight end sleeper is actually Kyle Pitts. I'm gonna try to target Kyle Pitts in every league. I think that with the addition of Kirk Cousins, now I know Kyle Pitts has been a fantasy disappointment since he's been in the league, but I think with Kirk Cousins, he loves targeting tight ends. I think Hawkinson last year really broke out because of Kirk Cousins, and then Raheem also mentioned that they're going to bring him out as a slot or bring him out wide as a receiver. I think that's going to just boost his fantasy value, and they really don't have a red zone threat besides Bichon, but in the passing game they don't have a red zone threat, and I think that's where he is going to make his money as well. And last but not least, my biggest sleeper is Coleman, Keon Coleman. I actually just like his personality, and I think that his personality is really going to gel well with Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen really looks for that number one receiver. I think he's going to miss Diggs. I think he's going to miss Gabe Davis. I think that he's going to really look for that receiver. And you can really get Coleman in the later rounds. So I like not taking a huge gamble on that. And yeah. I'm done with my notes.
Kyle Pitts, I do think is probably on a lot of people's radars, especially people that have kind of been paying attention to him. They probably think this is the year for him. I would, if I'm trying to draft him, I would draft him earlier than later, because I do think he's probably going to be one of the top 8 tight ends taken off the board.
Yeah, I think I have him at 8 too. So,
Darren, why don't you go ahead with your biggest sleepers?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think the biggest one in the rookie class is going to be Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver for the Colts. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He was the 11th pick, 11th wide receiver picked in this draft. So he chose to wear number 10 to represent the 10 wide receivers that were picked above him, and to show when he comes out on top, he was supposed to be a top pick. So I love the chip that he has on his shoulder there going into the season. I think he's going to be a sleeper in that Colts offense outside of Pittman and also Josh Downs. I think he'll have some great games down the line, especially in the later part of the season where he'll pick up steam. When it comes to another deep sleeper, it's going to be Greg Dortch, the wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. I know, kind of a random name, but when you have a big body frame in both Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr., you're going to put Greg Dortch into the slot where he'll be running around the field. He could be even utilized in the rushing game, doing some jet sweeps, jet options, things of that nature. He'll be a little bit more of a dynamic player because Rondale Moore left and went to the Falcons, so that gives him that third string wide receiver role, and I think he'll play a very vital part in the more of the widespread offenses, maybe in a 11 work, or an 11 scheme, maybe 12 scheme, same kind of thing. So I think he'll be around his 2022 mark, where he was at 52 catches, 467 yards and 2 TDs. I think he'll surpass that, go around maybe 600 yards. on like 50 or 60 catches, probably double his touchdowns, where it'll be around 4 is where I see him. So he's definitely a bench player just to keep in, where he'll have pop off games down the line. And then last but not least, we touched on him yesterday. One of the other sleepers is Najee Harris, the running back for the Steelers. We touched on it. Warren did get hurt. He has a hamstring injury. He's going to be sidelined for a couple of weeks, and that just builds Harris's stock more and more, especially when you have a new offensive coordinator coming in, which is run first. I think with just this really environment of new, Najee's going to go back to what we all thought he would be coming out of Alabama. So I think he'll have a bounce back year, especially it being his last year on his contract. So it's a prove it year for him. So he's definitely a player that I would be keeping in mind in that like mid round, maybe 6, 7, if he's still there.
He does seem like a pretty good running back too this year for sure. So I probably should have said this before we started this. When it comes to sleepers, we could all be wrong on all these players because we really don't know. I love targeting sleepers and talking about sleepers. It's probably one of my favorite things in the draft. So I'm going to give you guys a couple. My first one is Bengals wide receiver Jermaine Burton. He is, if you're watching the preseason games, he's returning kicks for the Bengals. He's lining up in the slot. He's lining up outside. It's obvious they really like this kid. If you think about, what was his name? Tyler Boyd, in his role in this offense, he would step up whenever T. Higgins or Chase went down. But even in weeks where they were all healthy, Tyler Boyd would come out on top sometimes. I wonder if that is going to be the same thing with Jermaine Burton. The fact that he's returning kicks is a big, good sign for him as well for fantasy. And I think he is averaging right now 25.3 yards per catch, which is crazy. That's all preseason. But even in college, he averaged 20.5 yards per catch over his last year, his senior year. So I think he is someone with a lot of promise. I would definitely keep an eye on him. If he's there for your last pick, I mean, I don't see anybody else better for your last pick. I would pick Jermaine Burton. My second sleeper is, I guess, not really a sleeper. I would consider him more of a sleeper this year. It is quarterback Kyler Murray for the Cardinals. Murray. But he when you think of quarterbacks, you want in fantasy, you think of someone that has you think of someone that has good arm talent, who's mobile, who can read defenses. That is Kyler Murray. He has been a pretty consistent guy outside of the injuries that he's faced. Last year, he missed the first 8 games of the season. When he came back, he averaged over 20 points a game in fantasy and ranked 11th in quarterbacks overall during that time frame. Hopefully it's a full healthy season for him. I think he could be a very good sleeper quarterback pick that, once you see the top 5 guys go off the board, even let the next 7, 8, 9 guys come off the board and you still have Kyler sitting there. I think that's a good pick to go ahead and go with Kyler Murray for your QB1 this year. My other sleeper is none other than Pat Freiermuth for the Steelers. And I'll give you guys
2 Steelers on the board. I love it.
Yeah. I'll give you guys some reasons to why I think this might be Freiermuth's year. I've kind of always had my eye on Pat Freiermuth. He's been one of my favorite tight ends in fantasy. I think I picked him last year. He didn't do very well for me, but the year before I wanted him, I didn't get him, and he had a pretty good year. That was year 2022. He had 63 catches for 732 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not a huge amount of touchdowns, but when you think about the offensive system that he's in now, everybody not named Kyle Pitts, that's a tight end, has succeeded in the Arthur Smith system. Jonnu Smith had big seasons under Arthur Smith and went on and got paid huge money for the seasons that he had. I think that Pat Freiermuth right now is sitting as probably the second wide receiver really for the Steelers behind George Pickens. And he's a tight end. So I think you're going to see a lot of targets for him, especially in the red zone. I would definitely want to pick Freiermuth up as my tight end 2. I think he could end up being your tight end 1 for the whole season if he gets out to the start that I think he will get out to. And I saw that Darian had a deep sleeper in his notes. I wanted to throw one in there. Very deep sleeper. I feel like no one's talking about him right now. And I probably should have brought him up the other day when I was talking about the Jets. But I'm going to say Malachi Corley. Watch out for this guy. I think there's a chance that this guy could be the wide receiver 2 by the end of the year. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to find a liking to him very quickly. He finished his, I think it was his junior year at Western Kentucky with 11 touchdowns. Has a lot of speed, a lot of strength, runs good routes, has been playing well in the preseason. Hasn't really put up a bunch of catches yet, but I do think maybe later towards like the mid-year, Malachi Corley could step out of the shadows and be a really big name in the NFL. That is something I could be definitely wrong about, but I say keep an eye on him. He is an interesting player to watch this year. He is younger and healthier than Mike Williams, so could be the guy.
If Steve Smith has him as a high-ranked wide receiver going into the draft, my eyes are on him. Steve Smith has been pretty accurate when it comes to those rookie wide receivers coming into the league. He was the only one, as a testimonial, he was the only one that was super high on Cooper Kupp coming out of Eastern Washington several years back. Everyone was like, no, like Kupp, he's playing like FCS ball. He's not going to be good. He's not playing that competitive level. Steve was like, no, this dog can play. He's a great route runner. And then lo and behold, he's got the wide receiver record for second most in ever in a season. So I follow Steve Smith anytime he says that this guy's going to be a dog, and then also follow him when he calls Jerry Jeudy average guy. So, in Steve Smith, we trust.
Yeah, I agree. I like watching Steve Smith break down receivers. I like Corley. I think he's going to be an interesting player. If it's not this year, it could be next year. And I think people are already calling him Malachi Scorley. So good nickname already for him. The next topic we have, it is our reoccurring segment that we like to do on this show. This is Who Would You Draft? This time we are doing the Bears wide receiver room. We did the Packers yesterday. We're going to do the Bears today. Nimmer, I'll start with you. Are you drafting someone in this room, and are you fading someone?
Yes. No. So, yes and no. But, so out of these 3 players, I probably would draft DJ Moore, but if I had to choose, but I am trying to stay away from this team. Maybe Swift if I get him at a cheap price, but this is another team that I'm staying away from. I'm not a big fan of getting a receiver with a lot of other options. So I think Moore is definitely going to be the wide receiver 1. I don't think it's going to be even close. I think Odunze is going to be the wide receiver 2. I don't think it's going to be close. And I think Keenan Allen is not going to produce as much as the Bears think that he's going to. So I'm definitely fading Allen. If I get Moore or Odunze, I wouldn't be too upset, but I don't even think they're even on my cheat sheet. So.
Darren, what about you? Who are you drafting? Who are you fading?
I mean, it's crazy to hear Nimmer say that he would draft DJ Moore when everybody last year was talking all this shit about him. I held true, and he was wide receiver 7 for basically for most of the season. He even peaked at wide receiver 2 after the 49-point game against Washington. And I'm trying to tell you guys, DJ Moore is that guy, especially now when you have a dynamic QB and Caleb Williams. I think his stock just rose even more. I think that's somebody that I would draft again. And then coming down to it, I think Odunze is going to be a great wide receiver 2 as well. You can catch him in the later rounds. But But if anything, I would be drafting those two, DJ Moore and Adunze, and fading Allen, just because coming off of last year being injured. I even saw, it could have been fake news, but I saw a report that he put on 20 pounds.
I saw that
And,
too.
and mind you, he's not the fastest wide receiver when it comes to his route running. He takes a while to get down the field, but I mean, when he does run a route, it's clean, it's efficient, but it takes time to get his stem going. So just with how I think Caleb is going to play, especially with DJ and Adunze, who are quicker than Allen, they're going to see the ball a lot more than Allen. But I do think Allen would be the red zone target just because of that big body frame, especially putting on 20 pounds. But he would be an individual that I am fading in this draft.
Yeah, so it sounds like we're all on the same page here. Fading Allen, it smells a little weird to me that he had injuries back-to-back years, and the second time they sent him right away. It wasn't even like, it was like overnight they sent Keenan Allen to the Bears. So I'm fading Allen. I do think it's good to take a look at DJ Moore and Adunze. DJ Moore is probably going to go pretty fast, I would think, just because of how talented he is. Probably from a talent standpoint, I would put him as maybe a top 10 receiver in the league. Very good.
Oh, respect my man deserves.
Isn't he
like
the
DJ
one
Moore.
that scored 40 points in a game, 40 fantasy points in a game? He was like
Yeah.
the only one to do it, right?
Yeah. He's really good. Runs really good routes, very quick. Probably the first time he's had like a capable quarterback to get him the ball. So really cool. And I think Adunze is someone to keep your eye on as well. Later in the draft, if he's there, he'll probably be kind of sitting there with guys like Tyler Lockett. So I guess maybe you'll have that decision to make. Do you go Adunze? Do you go Tyler Lockett? Do you go like Brian Thomas Jr. or something like that? It seems like Caleb Williams and Adunze are boys, and that makes me want to draft Adunze. I know in the preseason they've been doing really well too. So it sounds like we're all on the same page. Draft DJ Moore, draft Adunze, fade Keenan Allen. Love you, Keenan.
I think this is gonna be like last year with the Texans. I think that DJ Moore is gonna be like Nico Collins, and then Adunze is gonna be like Tank Dell. I think that's gonna be like the best comparison that I can kind of think of how I think that Moore and Adunze is gonna look. I think Keenan, they brought Keenan Allen because they wanted, like Darian said, that jump ball, throw it in the corner and he's gonna get it. But and I think Allen knows that, and I think that's why he gained so much weight, because I think he's like, all right, I don't need to be the number one receiver anymore. I just need to run 10 yards and catch the ball. Psh, I got that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. That's a fun wide receiver group, just like the Packers were yesterday. Now we have the last segment we're going to do today. This is the drafting gold segment. ADP comps. So basically, I'm going to give you guys situations where you might be sitting in a draft and you have to pick some players. No, you're fine. You have to pick between some players, and I want you to pick the player and give me a reason why. So our first group of guys, this is the wide receiver 10, 11, 12. Just to be clear, Davante Adams is at an ADP of the 18th receiver being taken off the board. Michael Pittman is at 35. Mike Evans is 33. So maybe you don't see these guys in the same round. Let's just say Davante Adams slides to the second round or the third round, and you want to pick up your wide receiver one. You're looking at these three guys. Who are you picking and why? Nemmer, why don't you go ahead?
So looking at these three receivers, I think that there's really only one receiver that has a reliable quarterback, and that's Mike Evans. Mike Evans is Mr. Consistent when it comes to 1,000-yard seasons, and I think that the reliable quarterback is huge to me. I think Davante Adams, the fact that is it going to be Gardner? Is he going to play the whole season? How well is he going to repeat as good as he's going to do as he did last year? And if he does, is he going to target Adams more? Is he going to target Myers more, or Brock Bowers more? Like, it's one of those things where there's too many question marks around Adams. And then with Pittman, is AR going to be healthy? And then if he is he going to target Downs more? Is he going to target Mitchell, like Darian said? So I feel like Evans really only has Goodwin and Baker, and you can tell as of last year that Evans was his favorite target. So I'm gonna go with a safe choice and draft Evans and Mike Evans.
What about you, Darian?
Yeah, I mean, looking at all these guys, star-studded, I would say Pittman's kind of that second tier in a sense. When it comes to it, just with the breakdown, and if I had to choose, I'm definitely leaning Evans. I talked about it yesterday. We'll forever talk about it. Is his consistency with getting 1,000 yards. I mean, there's sometimes some games where he'll come out slow, get 30, 40 yards, but then in that next game he'll pop off for like 240, which he did last year, which kept him in contention for hitting 1,000 yards. So he's going to have those kind of faltering games, but then pick it up with multi-touchdown games, multi-100-yard games, and balance it out. So he's definitely a good, solid pick. I do like Pittman. I like my USC Trojan wide receivers outside of Drake London. But I think with Pittman, his true issue and why he's not in that tier above in wide receivers is just the lack of touchdown production. If he could get over that hurdle and produce just a skosh more in that department, I think he would be higher on people's draft boards, especially against these two. He would be then picked. He's just got that player, too much upside player. So like I mentioned yesterday, drafting too much into upside can be a faltering point. Go with consistency. I'm going Mike Evans.
Yeah, it sounds like we're all on the same page here. Now that I'm thinking about it, Pittman might be a good candidate for the overcooked segment because you do have all those mouths to feed with the Donnie Mitchell and Josh Downs, a running quarterback, Jonathan Taylor as well. So maybe Pittman is being drafted a little too high this year. Mike Evans has always been consistent. The reason I would draft Mike Evans over Davante Adams is because last year at the second half of the year Davante Adams fell off a little bit while Mike Evans was kind of going hard the entire time. Mike Evans is on 1,000 yards for 9 straight seasons, I think.
10.
Yeah.
10. So, I mean, that just screams consistency. I love Davante Adams. I love Mike Evans. But I think just because Mike Evans has shown up so much more, I'm just going to go with Mike Evans for this. The next group. So this would be, let's say you're in the 4th, 5th, maybe 6th round, probably not 6th, probably 4th, 5th round. And you're sitting there and you need a wide receiver 2. You have Devontae Smith out of Philadelphia, Stephon Diggs for the Texans, Jalen Waddle in Miami. Darian, why don't you start with this one?
Yeah, this is a solid group of guys here. I mean, arguably two of the best wide receiver 2s in Devontae Smith and Waddle. And I mean, you can't forget about Diggs. Diggs being a wide receiver 1 when he was at Minnesota, going to Buffalo, and now he's fringe wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 in Houston. And I try to stay consistent here as well. I did say I would be fading Diggs, so I'm kind of putting him out of question here. And I'm leaving it up to Devontae Smith and Waddle. And that's a tough one, honestly, to give you a straight answer. But my thought in my heart lies with Waddle. I think if he can overcome the red flags or beige flags, which I think is only injury for him, he's going to have a breakout season. He's going to have the season that he was due last year, and he's going to break out. He's going to be that true high-end wide receiver 2 in that department, even break into the top 15 space in the NFL for wide receivers this year. So if he can get over that hurdle of being injured, those little niggles that pop up here and there, he's going to have a star season.
Yeah. Nimmer, what do you think?
Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, just kind of stay consistent with myself. I agree with you, Darian. I think that staying away from Diggs would be the optimal choice. I'm going to try to fade any receiver that has at least three good receivers within that wide receiver room. And Houston is stacked on receivers. I mean, he might even be wide receiver 3 if you think about it, behind Tank Dell. So definitely going to be fading Diggs in this. So that just does leave between Smith and Waddle. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the league ban the whole motion thing that they did with Tyreek, right? So
Yeah,
they
that
can't do
one where
that.
you go, that one where you go like halfway across and back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that will definitely put a damper on the Dolphins' offense. I think that the Waddle has the more upside, but I think Smith is more consistent. Plus, I trust Jalen Hurts a lot more than I do Tua. So I'm gonna go with Waddle. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go with Smith. I'm gonna go with Devontae Smith. He actually is also the wide receiver 22 to Waddle's 34 in a lot of the leagues too. So that just shows a lot more value, and I trust the Eagles more than the Dolphins.
Yeah. I think you're probably safe with any of these guys if they're your wide receiver too. I think you're probably feeling pretty good after you draft. I know I said in our who would you draft Houston Texans edition, I said I would go with Diggs. With these two other guys though, with Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle, I'm not picking Diggs here. I like Diggs, but I'm going to go with the younger guys. If I had to pick between the two, it is really hard because they are very close in stats and roles on the team. I think my gut just tells me to go with Jalen Waddle this year. He is one of the top end speed guys in the league. Maybe like Nimmer said, if that motion comes into play this year and that makes things struggle, maybe that makes more people get involved in this offense, meaning more touches for Jalen Waddle. And he's playing with his college quarterback, so I think that connection's pretty good there. I don't think Jalen Hurts ever played with Devontae Smith. I could be wrong.
I think there was an overlap.
Yeah, I think there was a year off.
Maybe they did. I don't know. Point is, I'm going with Jalen Waddle. I think last year he was off to a hot start, then got kind of quiet, and then kind of brought it back up at the end. Hopefully this year for him is a year of straight consistency the whole year. I think he is in a pretty good spot to get a lot of touches this year. And do we have one more, or was that the last one?
That was the last one.
Okay. So that is everything we have for you guys today. Hopefully those last few subjects will give you kind of the right mindset for your draft. If it's this weekend, like it's ours, hopefully we helped you out there. If it's the next weekend, maybe just come back to this video and watch it over again. It'll always be here for you. We are how many days away? 4 days from the draft? 5 days?
Yeah.
Saturday.
Saturday.
Saturday
So 1,
is our
2,
draft.
3 days. Well, including today.
3.
But yeah.
Yeah, very close. Very close to the draft. It's going to be a great time. We should be stacking up a little bit of content from the draft just to kind of show you guys. Should be fun. Is
What are you
there
most
anything you
excited
guys
about
want to say before you get out of here?
Yeah, what's the most thing you're most excited about in the draft besides obviously hanging out with your friends and stuff?
Yeah. I think just being on the lake because that's where we're at in Idaho. Just being on the lake, being able to jump in the water if that's allowed. I don't know, but
I hope so. I mean, I think
would
there's like a
assume it
dock
is.
where I'm sure
Yeah,
we can swim.
They have the kayaks too, so I'll probably get in one of those and row down the lake. That should be fun.
Yeah. What about
What are you guys excited for?
Shit, I'm just excited for the draft. I loved it last year. Just being in person for the first time, like it was a surreal moment watching people walk up. The anxiety of like, who the fuck did they pick? Now I got to scratch somebody off and adjust my board. It felt like we were in our own respective like war rooms, even though we were like 2 feet away from each other. And but like it was just so cool to being in that environment, be like kind of recovering. I mean, we were still hammered, but like being able to have that moment of like, damn, who do I get? All right, Chicken Conquo sounds like a great pick, and then go up there and do it live and seeing everyone's reaction of like, okay, solid, and like how Hooker gets. I love just he's super competitive, and if you like you pick somebody before him, he like reels real quick, but then he gets you back with like 2 picks back to back that were already in your line. But I just love the competitiveness about it and the drive we all have to have the best team.
You know, my favorite part about the in-person draft is when somebody's not really paying attention, and then like somebody ends up drafting the player. Like last year, Drew's sleeper was what's his name? Trevor Lawrence. Was it? It was Trevor Lawrence, or yeah, it was Trevor Lawrence.
It was Trevor Lawrence.
I drafted him right before he did, and he was so excited. I have the best sleeper. Nobody knows about it. Nobody's just talking a bunch of shit, and then he like goes and looks through the papers, and he's like looking at quarterbacks, and he's like, why can't I find Trevor Lawrence? And then he's like, then you look at the board, you just see the defeat on your face. Oh, like that moment right there was just precious. I just love that. But I'm honestly, Friday when we do the draft order, that's what I'm going to be most excited about. I feel like last year we went crazy day one, and then day two we were just so tired and out of it, and then people had different times and stuff like that they had to leave. So, you know, they just wanted to relax, which is understandable. But I think that Friday is going to be a lot of fun. I think that the competitive juices are really going to start flowing, and I think I'm most excited about Friday, that draft order.
Yeah, I also love just roasting people for their bad picks. I'm gonna do that. If I see you pick a bad pick, I'm gonna tell you right then and there that you picked someone really bad. If it's someone horrendous like Devin picking Hollywood Brown last year.
It's just the fact that you're cutthroat with it. You're like,
that was a shit pick. Stupidest pickup ever. You were such a dumbass. I was like, God damn.
Yeah, so maybe that's what I'm looking forward to the most.
Oh my God, it was so funny.
Oh, but that is everything from us. It is Christmas Eve around here. We will see you guys on Tuesday. Something to note, I probably won't be on that episode. I bought Pirates tickets a while back before I moved here, and now I got to go. So we'll have someone in place for me that episode. It'll be just as good, just as amazing, just as informative. But we will close tonight with all of the draft information we gave you. Hopefully you can kind of take that into your draft. Thank you and good night.